everyone, and welcome to my channel DB Designs and Sewing Australia. My name's Deb and today I'm going to take you on a sewing room tour. First of all, let me tell you what I'm wearing. This is the Vicky Sews Ed Widge blouse. I really think it is quite too big for me, but I might take it to my sister's weekend and see if it fits one of my sisters. It's got a lot of little buttons on it. It's an absolutely beautiful pattern and their instructions are so extensive, and they even tell you which side of the fabric to have face down on the plate when you're sewing. So I would usually sew a sleeve with the sleeve side on the plate so that it takes up some of the ease, but their recommendation was for this blouse to sew it with armhole on the plate, which was unusual, but it worked out and the sleeve fitted perfectly. There is no gather or no ease in it. Possibly the ease is in the body rather than in the sleeve. But anyway, it's a really nice blouse. As I said, it has got heaps and heaps of buttons on it. It's hard to probably see because it's in a navy blue. And I'm also wearing the Ash jeans by Megan Nielsen, which are in a Japanese stretch denim that I bought from Wicked Fabrics. This navy blue fabric was, one of my sisters gave it to me. I think it's probably some sort of polyester blend, but it's actually a nice fabric to work with. So now onto the tour. First of all, I'll do a quick overview, trying not to make everybody seasick, and then we'll go through every station I have one by one. This is some bunting that I made. Just makes it more bright and cheery in here. I rarely open these three blinds because I don't want my fabrics fading or my threads becoming weak. So I really try and eliminate natural light coming into this room, which is why I have so many lamps around so I can see. So that's some bunting that I made a week or so ago. And here's a beautiful quilt that my eldest sister made me for a present. In fact, I think she made it for me for a wedding present. And I think it's called the Geisha, and you can see that it's a Geisha girl inspired. It's an absolutely beautiful quilt. She's very talented. And there's a sign I made, a DB Designs sign. And here's a wall hanging that I bought when I was in Bali, which looks very nice and glamorous, but it drops little sequins all over the floor all of the time. Now let's just start over here in this section. I've got my laptop and I've got my cover stitch machine. I've had this cover stitch machine for 4 years. And for anybody who doesn't really know what a cover stitch machine is, it gives the finished edge that you would buy on a knit garment in ready to wear. So when we look at the back, it looks like it's overlocked. And when we look at the front, it looks like twin needle. So it does that all in one action. And anybody who's got a cover stitch machine will know how temperamental they can be. It's a really good machine, and it actually is an overlocker as well. When I was purchasing it, the guy had gotten it in for me. He'd actually ordered the machine in for me because I asked him to. And then when he takes it out of the box, demonstrates it, gets you to have a go on it, all of that sort of thing that you would expect from a proper sewing machine shop. And he did try to convince me that I would be better off with just a standalone cover stitch machine, which in hindsight, he was probably correct, because I never use this as an overlocker. because the trouble you have to go to change it from a cover stitch machine to an overlocker, you just would really not be very happy doing that all of the time. Whereas if I have it set up like this, I can just go and do cover stitch machining on it. When you do cover stitch, it's very, very important that you have pieces to practice on, because you do sort of need to change the tension a bit for most fabrics. Okay, next, oh, I know what else. And I have got a little box with scissors, quick unpick, tweezers and clips next to this machine, and also a rubbish bin. So that's a rubbish bin for rubbish, not an excess fabric bin that I have there, or scrap bin that I actually fill up my poof with. So now we've got an overlocker, and this is a Janome 2000D air threader. So this actually threads the upper and the lower looper thread with air. It's a fabulous machine and I absolutely love it. I've only had this for 8 months, I think. Yeah, I haven't had it all that long, and it really works a treat, and it does beautiful overlocking. We can see this would be the side that's facing up, and this is the underneath side. It's another thing that I also alter. I alter the tension all the time on my machines, because the tension that you're going to have for a heavy fleece and the tension that you're going to have for something that's thin are really, really quite different. So I always have testing scraps, and that's what I use to do it. So I don't know if many people have seen air threading machines before, but this is the area where your threads get sucked into these holes and they fly out. Grab them with the tweezers and pull them through, and then you've only got to thread the needles. So it really makes it much easier. Not that I was ever worried about threading my overlockers. I know my mum was. She used to tie a thread to her other threads and pull them through. I don't think she ever threaded that overlocker from scratch. I think a lot of people are scared they're not going to get it back in the right spot. But you actually get as fast at threading overlockers, cover stitch machines, as you do at threading your sewing machine. Also in here, I have scissors, screwdriver, more clips. Now, onto my sewing machine. My sewing machine is an Elna Alina 40. And when I looked up how long I'd had this for, I've actually had it for 12 years. Ooh, who would have thought? Must be time for a new one. The best thing about this machine is it actually goes really fast. So its amount of stitches per second is really quite high. If I wanted to get something that's stitched faster than this, I'd probably have to go to an industrial machine. So it also does have the option on this lever here to make it go slower. So you can go really slow on some things, or if you're on curves and you want to take it really easy, or if your fabric's really fine and you really need to be holding it the whole time, you may not want to sew that fast. But this is a fabulous sewing machine. I'm really, really pleased with it. And I hadn't realised that I had it for 12 years. In the fronts of all my sewing machine manuals, I've got all the receipts taped inside those manuals. So I know when I purchased it and how much I paid for it. So I actually bought this from Spotlight, I think. Now over here, I've got my machine needle holder. And so I made this just with a bit of wadding and quilted it so that I don't have to put my sewing machine needles that I've got on the go back into their plastic packets all of the time. I've actually got this little chart that I keep it on, which makes it much easier to change over my needles. But I do change needles and get rid of needles quite often because I do sew a lot. On the side of my sewing machine, I also have, yay for my photography skills, a little note saying what needle I have got in my sewing machine at the time. Here's just some of my bobbins, and depending what I'm sewing, I use up bobbins with random coloured threads in it. If it's not anything that's going to be seen or be able to go through, I've just got tape measures and scissors and friction pens, tapes. Got a hump jumper for sewing over bulky areas. I've also got this tool, and from memory, this is called the purple Thang, as in Thang, and it is fabulous for separating the seams. When I was making the baby's dress the other day, and you have practically fully enclosed that little tiny yoke up the top, if you just run this, and I think this part is called the stiletto, if you run this part in between the seams and then press it, you'll get a much better finish. And you can push out corners and other things with this end. I think this part is just supposed to thread elastic through, but I don't know how that would work. But anyway, it is a really very, very handy tool. You can push out the corners with it. It's not ultra pointy, so it's not like using an awl or anything like that. Yes, it's more like, looks like a ski, doesn't it? So it is really very, very handy. It pushes out the corners without breaking through the fabric, which is great. And then in my next drawer, I have got all of my sewing machine needles. So I have them all elastic band together. So, Microtex. There'll be all my stretch needles. There are all the universal needles, and so on and so forth. I have got all different types of pins. I have got fine lace pins and wedding dress and lace pins, because I do actually sew bridal. And then I've got some giant big quilting pins. And here's my hand needles, and I really like to use the Bowen needles from France. I find them really, really good. You can get really fine ones, and the eyes in them seem to work better than the other type. I don't know why I would even have those, but they're in there. I actually use glass head pins, and that's the brand glass head pins I use. I use the Merchant and Mills pins. And as you could see, I actually have two of the magnetic pin cushions, because they're just so handy, and sometimes I'm offloading onto one and I need to top up the other one. What else have I got in here? Oh, I've got my clover fork pins that I talked about the other day for sewing seams or where maybe 4 pieces of fabric all joined together. I've got a buttonhole opener. Just some other various types of pins. And all screwdrivers, skirt pin, just all the sort of general things you'd find in there. A whole lot of tape for when I do PDF patterns. Ooh, and up here I have got a very important tool. I've got a fantastic, very heavy magnet. So I can just swoop that over the floor and get all of the pins that I've dropped. In this drawer I've got all my scissors, rotary cutters. I think that's all different feet, small pliers, bias tape makers, and this makeup brush that I use to clean my sewing machines and overlockers out with. I find it better than the spiky brush that you actually get with it. So that's all the sort of things I keep in there. And in this drawer, I keep my paper scissors and my paper rotary cutter. Here's a packet of fabric stabilizer or Solvay, and I use that a lot when I'm doing buttonholes. If I was doing a knit buttonhole, I would tack that front and back of the knit buttonhole and just tear it all off later. It's such a good product. It is water soluble, but you don't need to, you just tear it off. What else have I got in there? Boning and that sort of thing for evening wear. Next I've got my mum's overlocker. Now this overlocker is over 30 years old and it was my mum's overlocker. In fact, we both bought overlockers on exactly the same day and used to buy them from Myer in those days. And I killed mine a long time ago, and I've had mum's overlocker probably for the last 14 years, and it does work really well, and I just had it serviced, but I still find that it really does not like really heavy fabric. It's the cutting of the fabric it doesn't like. Now I had the upper and lower blades replaced, but it still does a bit of a chew action some of the time. It does not like ultra heavy fabrics, but I do use it for some finer fabrics. And I'll be always keeping it because it was mum's. So next we have my final machine, and this is an Empicel Mark II, and I bought this off Facebook Marketplace. Now it sort of is a straight stitch machine, but it does have a cam, so I leave the cam in all the time. That makes it zigzag. And this machine is not electronic, fully mechanical, but it does do absolutely beautiful top stitching. And I tell you, I had this serviced as well when I had mum's overlocker serviced, and I think it goes faster now that I've had it serviced. I don't know how that could be, because it really is, for a mechanical machine, it really is quite fast. And I'll show you what I mean by really nice, like really nice top stitching. Really beautiful, really even. Can't really see it on the other side. And I also have a little card telling me what size needle is in there. Also keep a little pair of scissors there, and this little scrap bin. I don't have very many scraps from this machine because I'm mainly doing top stitching, so it's just threads and things I really have. And so that is all of the machine. On the side of this bookcase, I have all of my pattern making rulers and a whiteboard that I obviously don't use. Over on this bookshelf, I do have a tally, but I don't watch it very often. I sometimes watch the footy on it, but that's all. I have a basket full of small interfacing pieces, which when you sew baby things, you actually do use up the quite small parts of interfacing. And there I have all of my ironing needs. So sleeve roll, ham, a few different pressing cloths, point turner clapper, and a clothes brush. And in this, I have all of my stud making gear. So this would be what I would, when I put the studs on the backs of the baby's bibs. So in that one is like huge eyelets, whereas you might make some sort of a toy box and put big rope handles through it. You need the great big eyelets, that sort of thing. That hardware is in that. I've got all different sorts of wool to felt. Oh yeah, lots of beautiful colours. What I really wanted to make is a felted long coat. And when I was talking to the lady at the market in Tasmania, she said, I think you're overextending yourself because felting takes so long. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll just start with a scarf. So that is something else I wanted to look at. In here is all my elastic. I have rolls of elastic. Oh, I have mask elastic. And this is the main size elastic I use. But I do have all other sizes. Wide elastic. Is that really wide elastic? Next I have interfacing. I think I bought the interfacing when it was on sale or when I had a 60% off at Spotlight. And so I've got a huge amount of interfacing. Some of it's knit interfacing and some of it's just interfacing, woven interfacing, I suppose. But it's not really woven, is it? It's like a man-made thing. Here I have all of my webbing and tapes for when I make bags and aprons and oven mitts. And if I'm making kids like library bags, instead of making them some sort of string to go through it, I often use these bright coloured shoelaces, which just make it look a bit nicer. In here I have bias binding. In here I have zips. In here I have ribbons. And down there I have Velcro. So I've got everything separated out so I can find what I need when I need it. Okay, over here we have more ironing things. I've got a clothes rack. Look, there's a mirror. I've got a sleeve board. Another mini ironing board. Another iron. Water. Steamer. I've also got that, which is a cordless iron, but I find that it just doesn't get hot enough. So it's really not something that I go for much. And here I've just got bolts of fabric and Here I've got tracing paper, brown pattern making paper, and some very heavy interfacing that I use to make bags. What else have I got? Oh, here's my spinning wheel. Got a whole lot of alpaca wool. So, but I need to restore this spinning wheel. And I do have a kit that gives you all the new strings and all the new leather pieces and all the parts that you need to fix it up. I just haven't done it yet. So I will have to do that. This container, I have fabric that makes a really big mess. So this is some beautiful coating I've got. Looks a little bit purpley on my screen, but it's actually like a denim blue colour. And the other one I've got in here is just the remnants of a coat that I've already made, which is this one. And so I just call that teddy bear colour. Here's a look at the custom labels I use. I've got DB Kids in a few different colours, a Made with Love by Nanny, DB Babies, Deborah Y Designs, and I've got DB Designs, and that very top right hand one is, it's not really leather, I think it's vegan leather, and that's one of the ones that I put on jeans. All the rest is just my cut and readies, all my awaiting cutting boxes, my special projects box. So when I do my coat reveal, my 22 coats, you'll see that I've got a coat made out of this, actually one of my most favourite coats. It's all of the buttons and all of the charms, and at the back is a container with belt buckles in it. So always up for a good button. And down the very bottom is overlocking thread. So my overlocking thread, it's a container with all the white ones in it, or light coloured ones I should say. And that's a container with all the darker colours in it. And as you probably noticed, I'm a person that likes to change the thread to match the fabric as much as possible. And speaking of having thread to match your fabric, this is all of my threads. And I do like ones that match it. And some of the times I will put on the needles of the overlocker, I will also put matching thread if possible. In this bookshelf, I've just got all the things I made the other day that I packaged up for all the kids. Arts and craft in that yellow box. All of my rubber stamps in that clear box. And down the bottom, I've got all of my pattern making work and information on how to make blocks and all that sort of thing that I did when I went to school for a year to learn pattern making. Now to meet my friends the mannequins. This is Lulu and she is my plus size mannequin, and as you can see, the Nova coat practically fits her. Now this is Tessie and she is adjusted to be my size, and she is wearing the Annabelle dress by Style Arc. Unfortunately, I made a 16 and it's huge, and not just is it huge, it gapes in the neck. So I don't know what to do about it, because I thought it was wraparound. I thought it wouldn't matter how big it was, I could just wrap it around further. Not to be. This is really gapey, doesn't sit flat, and I did it all as per the pattern. It just does not work, and I don't know what to do about it. I don't know whether to turn it into a skirt or just to cut it up and make dresses for the little girls out of it, or if I should pull it apart and do it again. I did do stay stitching on the neck because I always do stay stitching, but it's just way too big and it's too long in the top as well. So I'll have to decide what I'm going to do about that one, but that's Tessie. Here's my fabric stash. Here's fabrics that I would use for babies. Here's stretch and knit fabrics. What's in that? Blankets and flannelette. Doesn't look like I've got any sheeting in there, unless it was flannelette sheets. Stretch knit fabric. Oh, and this is more knit fabric. This is an example of one of the fabrics that I got from Wicked Fabrics to make the undies. It's just such good quality fabric. It's just lovely. Container, I've got all my ribbing. I've got extra sewing patterns that are kids' toys, dolls, and there's actually my eldest daughter's sewing machine down the very bottom. The next one along's a whole lot of toweling that I use on the other sides of bibs if I don't make them double-sided and put flannelette in between them, and for baby Burt cloths and that type of thing. I'll do toweling on the other side. And here's some of my new fabrics. What does this say it is? Rayon, linen, cotton, sateen, cotton sateen, and polycotton. Now, in the bookcase, surprisingly, I have books in the top two shelves. And after that, I have 6 cubby holes with sewing patterns in them. And this is how I organise my sewing patterns. It's not ideal because they're starting to get really over full. And I can see this has got woven dress patterns in it. This one's got ensembles, jumpsuits and knit dresses in it. And this one's got tops in it. This one has pants, shorts, skirts, aprons and oven mitts and the poof. And this one's got nightwear, jackets and coats and menswear. And this one's got kids and babies. Now above this bookcase, this used to be a vision board and now it's just a board with random stuff on it really. Got some sayings and things on it. Don't know if you can read anything on there. Nice shoes. I'd like to get some of those shoes. And just some things that my kids had given me. Oh, I think my eldest sister made that for me, that little mannequin. And here I've got Insul fleece, the silver one, which is what goes on the insides of oven mitts. And then I've just got some like quilting wadding and more wadding in that basket on the end. And this is Minnie, and she is wearing the Kilo wrap dress. You can tell why she's called Minnie, because she's pretty little. And so I have her right by the front door, stop people from trying to come in because it scares them. As my eldest daughter, who collects our mail when we're away, tells me, "Stop putting that there, Mum. It scares the hell out of me." But so it works. Here I've got rayon, linen, cotton sateen, cotton polycotton. And here I've got suiting, crepe and lining. And here I've got much more linen. This is fabric that I order from Spoonflower, and it's a canvas. And I actually make toy boxes out of it. So depending what type of dog people have or whatever pattern they want, that's what I make for them. Here I've got some knitting that I've got on the go that kids will be 10 years old before they ever see the light of day. Here's more linings and satins. And I think down the bottom here, we've got 2 more types of coating, like teddy bear coating and the other coating with the fleece inside it. Now, let me just show you some fabulous fabrics that I've received lately. This is a beautiful fabric and it's from Blackbird Fabrics and it's called Sandwashed Cupro Blend. And it's in a magenta rose. It's really like a raspberry colour. Just reminds me of fabric that we used in the 90s, which was like a sand-washed silk. It is such, you probably can't see how beautiful texture that is, but it's absolutely beautiful fabric. I noticed that Blackbird have got a banana coloured one on there. Absolutely gorgeous. And then from the Dahlia Sewciety, I ordered this fabric. And what I thought I'd make with this is a duster for summer. You know, pop over a linen top and pants, then you've got an evening outfit. I also purchased this fabric from Kristen from the Dahlia Sewciety also. This is just, I just love this colouring. It's just beautiful, beautiful colouring. And I will make a dress out of this fabric. It's so nice. And this is washed up really softly. The Cupro I haven't washed yet, but these other fabrics I have washed. And this fabric, also from Kristen from the Dahlia Sewciety. How pretty is that? It is absolutely beautiful. Now I'm not sure, I think I'll probably make a top out of this because I'll end up having a lot of pairs of linen pants. So any sort of a top, that's what I'll be making with that. And of course, everybody has seen my Secret Garden fabric. I've washed it now. You can always tell in my fabric stash what's been washed and what hasn't, because I've always overlocked the edges of everything that's washed. So I overlock it, put it in a pile. When it's dried, and I don't usually dry stuff in the dryer, only for the kids I dry stuff in the dryer because their mother will. So I just dry mine on clothes horses or outside on the clothesline. And then I bring it in and iron it and put it in my stash. And so when I look through my stash, if it's not overlocked, it's not washed yet. So even the knits I overlock, even though they don't need to be overlocked, because that's my method of telling whether or not they've been washed. And I always like to pre-wash it because there's nothing worse than spending all that time making something, washing it, and then getting a big surprise it doesn't fit anymore. So this is my Secret Garden fabric, and I'm thinking the Style Arc pixie dress. So I have cut out the Style Arc pixie dress pattern, and I have got some black rayon that I was going to test it in. Although this would give a slightly different look because of 100% lawn, 100% cotton lawn, it's going to have a different flow of fabric. At least it will let me know whether or not the fit is going to work. So I just remembered what else I haven't shown you. And I have these 2 big containers and they are full of fabric for quilting, masks, crafts, curtains, bags and aprons. So I make aprons and oven mitts in fabric like this. Like this bumblebee one, that's really cute. And a caravan one that I made my grandson. Ones with tractors and trucks on it. And all my mask fabric and all of my batik fabric. I actually found this great piece of fabric while I was scrapping around in that box. It's actually got sewing machine themed. Thought I might make some covers for my sewing machine. I have got a cover for, I've got the covers that they come with, but I've got a proper fabric cover for one of them. So I do need to make 4 other covers. So I was thinking I'd do that on one side, on the front of one, and that on the front of another one. And then go through my stash and see what else I've got. So that's what I keep in this box. So I've got all the different mask fabric, pieces of curtains. And in this box, I've got small pieces, things that would be good for lining, especially if you're only lining a bodice. Things you might be able to make for kids out of it. But when I looked through this, I thought, oh, here's the shell coating. Now, although that may not be a big enough piece to make a 5-year-old a coat, I'm sure that's going to be big enough to make a size 1 coat next winter. So I'll hang on to those, and the other one is the dinosaur one. It's really quite easy to sew the shell fabric. It was unusual. I'd never sewn it before I made 2 winter coats last year for the kids. And I've just got like things like pieces of satin, pieces of like really expensive silk, just offcuts that are big enough to actually make something with. So that does it for my sewing room tour. If there's anything that you're interested in, so that's it for my sewing room tour. If there's anything you're interested in seeing, just let me know and we can look at it up close. I'm not sure if people know the single seam method for making the bunting. So that bunting is a full piece, but you just have a piece that's like 10 inches by 10 inches and you fold it to corner, you sew one seam, turn it out the other way, and then all you've got to do is stitch the top tape on. So if people don't know how to make that bunting, I'll be quite happy to show you. Just let me know, and everybody have a good week, because next week I'm going to be bringing you all of my coats. Bye.